history, apologetics, and current events. From the housetops, coming up next.
Welcome to From the Housetops. I'm your host, Brother Matthew. This week we'll be hearing from St. Alphonsus Maria de Liguori, who died in the year 1787. Father Feeney, in his book Saints to Remember, says of St. Alphonsus that he was the founder of the Redemptorist order and became a doctor of the Church by constantly preaching and writing about the Holy Eucharist and about the Virgin Mary. Father Feeney continues, "No saint is more complete or superlative in praise of the virginal Mother of God than he." End quote. We turn now to St. Alphonsus' book, The Glories of Mary, for his thoughts on Mary as mediatrix of all graces. By way of introduction to this summary, in 1755, an anonymous author criticized what St. Alphonsus had written in his book, The Glories of Mary. The critic found fault with the assertion that, quote, God grants no graces otherwise than through Mary, end quote, and called this hyperbole and exaggeration. The saint's response to this objection is based on the solid foundation of Catholic theology, and his admirable defense of Our Lady's intercessory powers needs to be heard in our day. He begins by quoting St. Thomas Aquinas, who stated that, quote, God is pleased to honor his blessed mother, who in life honored him so much. In proportion to the graces they have merited, the saints can save many others. But that our blessed Redeemer and his most holy mother merited so much grace that they can save all men. End quote. Moreover, as she is the universal advocate of all men, it is becoming that all who are saved should obtain salvation by her means. Moreover, and this, according to St. Alphonsus, seems to be a more solid reason, Mary cooperated by her charity, as St. Augustine says, in the spiritual birth of the faithful. So also God wills that she should cooperate by her intercession in obtaining for them the life of grace in this world and the life of glory in eternity. For this reason the Church makes us call her without any limitation our life and our hope, those titles taken from the Salve Regina. But that which has made and still makes the greatest impression on my mind is that I see this opinion maintained not only by so many learned authors, but also by saints. The anonymous writer believes he has in particular proved that St. Bernard never meant to assert that all graces come to us by the hands of Mary, but only that through her we received Jesus Christ, who is the source and plenitude of all graces. But I believe, on the other hand, the opposite of what he asserts. St. Bernard says that Mary received the plenitude of graces from God. Then explaining in what this plenitude consists, he says that it consists principally in the reception into herself of Jesus Christ, who is the source of all graces. But then he adds that in consequence of this, the Blessed Virgin received another plenitude, which is the plenitude of graces, that as she is the mediatrix of men with God, so she might herself dispense the graces to all men. The saint says, quote, Why should human frailty fear to approach Mary? In her there is nothing severe, nothing terrible. She is all sweetness, offering milk and wool to all. Thank him then who has provided you with such a mediatrix. She has made herself all, to the wise and to the foolish. By her most abundant charity she has made herself a debtor to all. She opens her merciful heart to all, that all may receive of her plenitude. The captive, redemption, the sick, health, the sinner, pardon, the just, grace, the angels, joy, her Son, flesh, that no one may hide himself from her heat. End quote. Remark, therefore, the words, that all may receive of her plenitude, for they clearly prove that St. Bernard here speaks not of the first plenitude, which is Jesus Christ. Otherwise, he could not say that even her Son received his flesh from her plenitude, but of the second, or consequent fullness of grace, as we have already said, which Mary received from God, whereby to dispense to each one of us the graces which we receive. Remark also the words, there is no one who hides himself from her heat. Did anyone receive graces otherwise than through Mary, he could hide himself from the heat of this sun, S-U-N. But St. Bernard says that no one can hide himself from the warmth of Mary. Elsewhere he says, quote, "By thee we have access to the Son, O blessed finder of grace, bearer of life, the mother of salvation, that we may receive him by thee, who through thee was given to us," end quote. By which the saint clearly gives us to understand that as we have access to the Father only through the Son, who is the mediator of justice, and who by his merits obtained for us all graces, so also we only have access to the Son by means of the Mother, who is the mediatrix of grace, and by her prayers obtains for us all the graces that Jesus Christ has merited for us. This is still better explained by that which the saint afterwards says in a sermon of the Aqueduct, in the commencement of which he says that Mary received the first plenitude of grace from God, that is, Jesus Christ, in order that she might impart it to us also. But a little further on, he speaks clearly of the second plenitude of graces which she received, consequently of the graces which we receive through her prayers. The saint says, quote, "It is true that Mary obtained Jesus Christ, the source of graces from God, but this perhaps does not fully satisfy your desires, for you would wish that she should herself obtain for you by her intercession these graces which Jesus Christ merited for you." End quote. The saint then passes on to exhort us never to cease to honor and to have recourse with great confidence to this divine Mother, saying that which we desire God has already granted, by depositing in Mary the plenitude of every blessing, that whatever we receive of hope, grace, and salvation from God, we may see that we have obtained it by the means of Mary, who ascends overflowing with delights. She, the saint says, is a garden of delights, and remark that he is still speaking of the graces which are actually dispensed to us by Mary's hand, upon which the divine south wind has not only breathed in passing, but has so filled with his balmy breath that its perfumes, that is, the most precious gifts of graces, are sent forth on every side. End quote. And in reference to the first text which I quoted, "There is no one who hides himself from her heat," the saint says, quote, "Take away the sun, where will be the day? Take away Mary, what will be left but the darkness of night?" End quote. The saint then continues to exhort us to recommend ourselves to Mary, and to take her as our advocate with Jesus Christ. He encourages us, saying that if she prays for us, her Son is certain graciously to hear her. For he hears his mother, and the Father hears his Son, and immediately adds, "My children, she is the sinner's ladder. She is my greatest confidence. She is the whole ground of my hope." Here, when the saint calls her the sinner's ladder, and the whole ground of his hope, he certainly does so for no other reason than because he considers her as the intercessor for and the dispenser of all graces. She is a ladder, and as we cannot reach the third step of the ladder unless we put our foot on the first, so neither can we reach God otherwise than by Jesus Christ, nor Jesus Christ otherwise than by Mary. He then calls her his greatest confidence, and the whole ground of his hope. And why? Because, God having willed that all graces should pass through Mary, he would have considered himself deprived of grace and hope had he been deprived of her intercession. He then exhorts us to do as he does, that is, to place all our hopes in Mary, giving us at the same time to understand that if Mary prays for us, we are certain of salvation. For as the Father cannot but graciously hear the Son, neither can the Son do otherwise than graciously hear his mother. On the other hand, he tells us that if Mary does not pray for us, we shall not obtain salvation, because she will not have provided us with grace, which is all that we require, and the only means by which we are saved. He then concludes, quote, "What more can we desire? Let us seek for grace, and seek it in Mary, for that which she seeks she finds, and never meets with a refusal." End quote. Moreover, I have given in my book many other passages with their references, as well as from the writings of the saints as from other ancient and renowned authors, and I do not see how it is possible to explain them otherwise than according to our opinion. I will here simply give them together without comment, and my reader may judge how far my opinion is correct. St. Sophronius, in a sermon on the Assumption, formerly attributed to St. Jerome, says that, quote, "The plenitude of all grace, which was in Christ, came into Mary." End quote. St. Bernardine of Siena, "All graces of the spiritual life that descend from Christ their head to the faithful, who are his mystical body, are transmitted by means of Mary. That from the moment in which the Virgin Mother conceived the divine Word in her womb, she acquired a special jurisdiction, so to say, over all the gifts of the Holy Ghost, so that no creature has since received any grace from God otherwise than by the hands of Mary. That all gifts, all virtues, and all graces are dispensed by the hands of Mary to whomsoever, when, and as she pleases." Again, the same saint, St. Bernardine of Siena, "As God was pleased to dwell in the womb of this holy Virgin, she acquired, so to say, a kind of jurisdiction over all graces. For when Jesus Christ issued forth from her most sacred womb, all the streams of divine gifts flowed from her as from a celestial ocean." St. Bonaventure, "As the moon, which stands between the sun and the earth, transmits to this latter whatever she receives from the former, so does Mary pour out upon us who are in this world the heavenly graces which she receives from God."
We'll be back with more from the Housetops after this break.
We wish you a happy and blessed new year from all your family at WQPH.
Hello, I'm Kendra Von Esch. Go be the light. Walk in the light of the Lord. But what does that really mean? It means that if you have had an encounter with Jesus, you have the light inside you. You have been illuminated with truth, faith. You will never be the same. And joy is most likely oozing from you because of this hope of heaven. There are so many who are still in the dark. They're sad, worried, unfaithful, scared of death, and on the wide road to destruction. As Christians, we show this light through our love, our peace, and our joy, especially through the difficult times in our lives. So go be the light today. Smile at others, and when they ask you, "How come you're so happy?" tell them it is Jesus. For more inspiration and free resources, go to KendraVonEsch.com.
On the WQPH community calendar,
our chosen nights will continue. The next one will be on the 14th of January as we begin season 3 of The Chosen at St. Bernard's Parish at St. Camilla's Church on Mechanic Street in Fitchburg. Doors open at 6:30. There'll be pizza and soda served, and then another episode of The Chosen, and then Father Dolan's talk on it to, what's Catholic, what's not, what's biblical, what's not, and what is it all about. So definitely worth your time. So we'd like to see you down there if you get a chance.
Just as Christ was born in a manger over 2,000 years ago, all of us here at your Catholic radio station pray that He is born on you in your hearts and minds during this holy season. In the spirit of this time of giving, would you consider a gift to help us continue this important work of evangelization? If you are interested in helping us continue to spread His word and would like to make a tax-deductible donation, you may visit us on the World Wide Web. From our family to yours, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Hello, this is Keith Lockhart of the Boston Pops asking you to support WQPH. Here's Connie Murphy to tell you how.
Thank you very much, Keith Lockhart, director of the world-famous Boston Pops Orchestra. We certainly need your generous support. Simply write a check payable to WQPH and mail it to WQPH 89.3 FM, Post Office Box 589, Medford, Mass. 02155. Again, that's Post Office Box 589, Medford, Mass. 02155. Or you can go to our website, wqphradio.org, and hit the donate button.
On the WQPH community calendar.
Coming up in January, on the Epiphany, we have Father coming here to do the exorcism of the water. So you have beautiful water for the whole year, Epiphany water. If you'd like to come or you'd like to get some, 617-459-8735. Ho, ho, ho.
And that number again, please.
617-459-8735. Merry Christmas.
And again, St. Bonaventure, God will not save us without the intercession of Mary. And again, as a child cannot be without a nurse, so no one can be saved without the protection of Mary. St. Ephrem says, O most holy Virgin, receive us under thy protection, if thou wilt see us saved. For we have no hope of salvation but through thy means. St. Germanus, what hope can we have of salvation if thou dost abandon us, O Mary, who art the life of Christians? St. Alphonsus, O Mary, God has decided on committing all good gifts that he has provided for men to thy hands, and therefore he has entrusted all treasures and riches of grace to thee. St. Antoninus, whoever asks and expects to find graces without the intercession of Mary endeavors to fly without wings. St. Peter Damian, all the treasures of the mercy of God are in her hands. The learned Gerson, she is our Mediatrix, through whose hands God has decreed that all that he gives to men should pass. The Abbot of Chelas, she is the dispenser of the divine graces, for her Son grants nothing but what passes through her hands. And in another place he says, our salvation is in her hands. The writer Cassian states, the salvation of all depends on their being favored and protected by Mary. And again St. Bernardine of Siena, O Lady, since thou art the dispenser of all graces, our salvation is in your hands. Richard of St. Lawrence, whatever graces God grants to his creatures, he wills that they should pass through the hands of his Virgin Mother. Elsewhere he supposes Jesus Christ saying, no one comes to me unless my mother draws him by her prayers. Referring to the words of Proverbs, she is like the merchant's ship, he says, in the sea of the world all are lost who are not received into this ship. Therefore, as often as we see ourselves in danger of perishing in the midst of the waves of this sea, we should cry out to Mary, Lady, save us, we perish. And again he says, as we should fall into the abyss, if the ground were withdrawn from under our feet, so does our soul, deprived of the succor of Mary, fall first into sin and then into hell. St. Alphonsus continues, I add another argument, which has great weight with me. It is that the greater part of the faithful have always recourse to the intercession of the Divine Mother for all the graces which they desire. Whence it appears that the above-mentioned pious belief is, we may almost say, the general belief of the Church. Of this very argument, that is, the general belief of the faithful, my opponent makes use to prove the doctrine which I consider certain of the Immaculate Conception of Mary. This was written at the time that the doctrine of the Immaculate Conception had not yet been defined as an article of the faith. To conclude, St. Alphonsus states, the above belief that all graces pass by the hands of Mary, seeming to me, as also to many other writers, both very pious and very probable, I shall always rejoice that I have believed it and taught it to others, if for no other reason, at least because it inflames my devotion towards Mary, whereas the opposite opinion cools it, which is certainly not a slight evil.
Tremendo suffering thou didst bear, that I near thee might be. What suffering thou didst bear, that I near thee might be.
Adeke sed mondo, il Creatore, mancano pane fuoco, mio Signore, mancano pane fuoco, mio Signore.
Canoletto, Pargoletto, quanto questa povertà più mi innamora, giacché ti fece amor povero ancora, giacché ti fece amor povero ancora. Thou art the world's creator, God's own and true word, yet here no robe, no fire for thee, divine Lord, yet here no robe, no fire for thee, divine Lord. Dearest, fairest, sweetest infant, dire the state of poverty, the more I care for thee, since thou, O love divine, wilt now so poor to be, since thou, O love divine, wilt now so poor to be. We
From the Housetops is produced by the Slaves of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, Still River, Massachusetts.